Collision regulations. Collision regulations are the traffic rules of the road for boats. They say who has right of way, who gives way, who does what. Of all the rules, the lookout rule is the most important. The skipper must keep a good lookout, using eyes and ears at all times. Remember, it's the skipper's responsibility. Secondly, remember that every skipper has the responsibility to avoid collisions, regardless of who should give way, who's in the right of way. Colliding with someone puts you in the wrong. All vessels must avoid collisions. End of story. Remember the rule we mentioned earlier that says that you must travel at a speed that will give you time to maneuver to avoid a collision. So, no matter what someone else does in their boat, you must be ready and must avoid a collision at all times. So, if we're traveling in rain or in fog or at night, we should travel slower. Remember this. Keep an even better lookout. Make yourself visible by turning on your navigation lights and get ready to stop if needed. Travel slower. A very important part of boat driving is making sure that other skippers know what you are doing. They must know and be able to see what you're doing immediately. So when you turn, make it an early, make it clear, make it large. Make it very obvious what you're doing so the other skippers understand what you're doing. Which person is responsible for keeping a good lookout? Skipper. What do collision regulations prevent? Collisions. Which skipper is responsible for avoiding a collision? All. What speed should you travel at? A speed that will allow you to avoid all collisions, always. What about at night? Slower. In rain or fog? Slower. How do we help other people see our boat at night? Turn on navigation lights. When we turn, what must we do? Make the turn early, clear, large, obvious to others. Right of way and giving way. When two vessels are approaching a jetty from different directions, one going up the river, the other going down the river, which one has right of way? Let's work it out. Most boating rules can be worked out. Imagine you're rowing in your boat upriver, rowing upriver. You're struggling hard to fight the current. You're rowing as hard as you can to go up the river to get to a jetty. Another boat is also headed to the same jetty, but they are coming down river. The current's helping them. They are taking it easy. They're cruising along, doing nothing, just drifting along, heading towards the same jetty as you are. Now, you're going very slowly and you're almost there. You're exhausted. Who should be the first person allowed to grab the jetty? You, struggling upriver, or the others who are just cruising there, cruising downriver? The rule is, the boat going upriver has right of way into the harbour, into the river, has right of way to pull into a jetty first. Does a boat going upriver have right of way to a jetty before a boat going downriver? Yes. When two boats approach a jetty, which must give way? The one headed upstream or downstream? Downstream gives way. To understand upstream and downstream, or upriver and downriver, think about the river being a waterfall. A river is the same as a waterfall. It flows from up to down. A waterfall is part of the river. It flows downstream, downhill, down from the hills, down to the sea. So the sea is downhill, downstream, down the river as far as you can go. If you travel from the ocean into a harbour or into a river or into a stream, you are travelling upstream, upriver. Into the stream is going up stream. When two boats approach the same jetty from the same direction, the boat on the outside can turn away. The boat on the inside is trapped, so B must turn away. A has right of way. A goes to the jetty first. Power also gives way to sail, and that's another obvious one. The people who are sailing are generally having a more difficult time. A sailboat is not able to maneuver, generally like a powerboat. You must know this saying off by heart. Look to the right, keep to the right, turn to the right, give way to the right. This makes sense when you think about the early days of boating, when these rules were invented. Early boats were all steered by oars that were hung over the right-hand side of the boat. As the boats got bigger, the oars were replaced with larger boards, steerboards. Steerboards. From there you get starboards, the right-hand side of a boat. The person steering the boat, using the steerboard, was on the starboard, the right-hand side of the boat. When the boat got filled up with cargo, the person on the right, who was steering with the steerboard, couldn't see the left of the boat, couldn't see the left of the channel. So the steer person could only see the right bank of the river. So they kept to the right. And people coming in the opposite direction in the river also kept to their right. And even though both steer persons on the steerboard sides of the boats couldn't see each other, they didn't hit each other, as they were both on the steerboard, the right-hand side of the channel. People steering while on the right-hand side, steerboard side, could see the right and could see straight ahead. So if they came to a huge, large open lake or the ocean, some large area of water, and they could see somebody ahead of them or to the right of their boat, if they could see the other person, the other boat, they had to give way because obviously the other person couldn't see them. If you can see that if two boats are on a collision course, the person who can see the other boat on his right has to give way because he's looking at the other boat's left-hand side, where there is no steer person. The steer person is on the right, so could not see the left, so keeps on going. So the steerboard now is hanging down quite deep on the right-hand side of the boat, and you can see it would get broken if it actually pulled up into the riverbank to load or unload. So the opposite side of the boat was better to pull up to a jetty or a dock. A jetty or a dock or any unloading place is called a port. So the boat would sit against the port, against the jetty, with its left-hand side facing the port, and the steerboard would be hanging down in the deeper water, further out in the river, away from the port, on the right-hand side. So here we have the port side of the boat against the port, and the steerboard side out in the deeper water. History teaches us even more. We can learn the colours of lights on a boat. Imagine this boat now tied up with the port side tied up against the port, the jetty, in a harbour, and the steerboard, right-hand side, in the deeper water away from the jetty. Boats get loaded and unloaded day and night in the port, as their travel is decided by the tide and the winds. The port is always awake at night, and that's why they have the most nightlife. Bright white streetlights destroyed night vision of the port workers, so they used red lights. Red lights don't destroy your night vision, so boats used red lights at night, and they also put red lights on the jetty and in the harbour area. Red lights were in the port, red lights in the harbour. That became the red light district, the harbour, the port. Red lights are port. Red lights are where the sailors are. Then, carry this further. The boat leaves the port at night. Some of the red port lights are still hanging on its port-hand side. Any other boat out in the water that can see the red lights knows that they are looking at the left-hand side of a boat. Even in the pitch darkness, all you need to see is red, and you know it's the left of another boat. You also know that when you're looking at the left-hand side of another boat, there's no one there who's steering it. They're on the opposite side. They can't see you. So there you have port, red, on the left, and steerboard on the right. It didn't take long for them to then add green for go on the right-hand side of the boat. So if you're out there at night time and you see another boat's red light, you give way, you stop, or you turn to the right because you can only see to the right. You're on the steerboard side of the boat. You can't see to the left. So even when you're coming into a channel or into a harbour, if you see a red light, you go to the right of it. If you see a green light, you go to the left of it. And that applies whether you see another boat or a channel marker. It applies both ways. Give way to the right, keep to the right, and turn to the right. When crossing, give way to the right. Whether you slow down or stop or just turn right to go around behind the other boat is your choice, but you must give way to the boat on your right. If you're headed directly towards another boat head on, both vessels must turn to the right. Remember to make the turn large, obvious, and early, in plenty of time, so the other skipper is well aware of what you're doing. You can overtake on the left or the right when you're coming up behind another boat, but overtake only when it is safe and keep well away from the other vessel, and be aware they may not have seen you, so they may turn suddenly. The overtaking boat, that's you, must keep clear of the other boat that is being overtaken. The boat being overtaken doesn't have to give way to you. You give way. This is one rule that overrides all the other giveaway rules. So you can't overtake a boat on its right and suddenly expect him to give way to the right. They don't have to give way to the right because you're overtaking them. The overtaking rule applies, so you keep clear of them. So remember, look to the right, give way to the right, turn to the right, keep to the right, and give way when you're overtaking. Does power give way to sail? Yes. Look right. Keep right. Turn right. Give way to the right. Get it right. Which side of the boat is starboard? Right. Which side of the boat is port? Left. What colour is port? Port is red. If you see a boat's red lights ahead of you, which way do you turn? Right. If head on, what should both vessels do? Turn right. Can you overtake on left or right? Yes, both are okay. Must the overtaking vessel give way? Yes. Must the overtaking vessel overtake only when it is safe? Yes. Must the boat that is doing the overtaking give way? Yes.